My mic. Oh, there we go. Those of you who are on the video, we're just kind of settling in here. We had a little longer closed session, which we try to always hit 6 o'clock. We didn't quite do it this time. But now I call to order the regular meeting of the City Council and Housing Authority for Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Please stand. We're going to have a video, play the national anthem, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag Okay. So now it's time for the moment of solemn expression, and we're led again by Calvary Chapel Pastor Emeritus David Mann. You are breaking a record for the first couple of meetings. You're coming in, and we really appreciate you being here.
Well, I'm glad to be with all of you, and when I come in here, I always see a lot of smiles, and so appreciate that, and it's an honor to be with you again this evening, and shall we pray? Father, we come before you, and we ask your blessing once again upon the city of Costa Mesa, our meeting this evening, and the business issues and decisions set before us. Lord, bless our mayor, our council members, all our city officials and department staff. We lift them up to you, pray for their families and their well-being. We lift up their police department, the chief of police, the entire police force, and inside staff, the fire department, the chief captains, entire fire response staff and fire and rescue teams. Lord, we ask you bless them and continue to watch over them and all that they do to protect us. The water department, we lift up them to you, Lord Jesus. Bless, Lord, the operations there that keep the water flowing. All the businesses that reside here in Costa Mesa, the residents that reside here in the city, Lord, we ask you to continue to guide us, Lord, into the days and the year ahead. We thank you for your continued presence, your guidance, and your protection and your love upon each of us and our city. We pray also for the neighboring cities and our country that you would extend the same blessing upon all. And we ask this in Christ's name, amen. Amen. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Pastor
Take care.
Emeritus. Madam Clerk, would you please do the roll call?
Mr. Mayor, the record will reflect that all council is present.
Excellent. Madam City Attorney, do you have a closed session report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did receive direction from the council with respect to one of the matters of pending litigation. Did I get that right? Yes. With the matter of pending litigation that we did bring on to the agenda, and that was the workers' compensation appeal Case number ADJ 126744446. We also received direction with respect to the real property negotiations, and no reportable action was taken.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Now, we don't have any presentations tonight, but we're going to make up for it at our next meeting. We have a really fun and good presentation planned for Black History Month. So for those of you in the public and those of you on council, you can all look forward to that. So with that, we are ready for our public comments. With public comments, we start with the people in the council chambers, then we go to Zoom. You have 3 minutes. At minute number 2, you're going to hear a sound, a tone. At that point, you're supposed to wrap up your comments. Once you get to 3 minutes, your mic will turn off. So with that, let's go to, and you can talk about anything except what's on the, you can pretty much talk about anything except for new business item number 1. You could talk about anything in the world. You got 3 minutes maximum. Mr. Toller, you have the floor.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I want to just go over 3 things real quick that can make our intersections safer. As we know, intersections are the places where bad things happen in our streets. So real quick, daylighting, right turns on red, and yield left turns. I could see how we could get stuck trying to figure out some methodology and where to apply these safety measures. This has been on the books for 10 years. This is in our circulation element. These are what we identified as pedestrian opportunity zones. Another easy start might be these suggested routes to school maps that we have. We have one of these for every school in the city. There's a lot of intersections here where these safety measures could be applied. So out of those 3, the first one's called daylighting. I appreciate the police department. They're raising awareness about this. They're posting it on social media, and they are intending to implement it. I wanted to read this the same day that they posted that on Facebook for the first time, the implementation of AB 413. Somebody else happened to post this. He said, early in the 70s, one of my friends that lived on Platt Drive was killed by a car while he was riding his bike. I was not with him that day, but many of my friends witnessed the accident in horror. His name was Jeffrey Diedrich, and the city named Jeffrey Drive after him. Soon after the accident, the family moved away from Platt and the state because of the horrific memories. I remember very clearly our neighbors speaking to Costa Mesa City Council to make sure the curb near Platt Drive was to be painted red to ensure that cars did not block pedestrians or bikes from being seen crossing in that area. So once again, I appreciate the city doing something about this. One thing I do learn that's worth mentioning is that for over 50 years, we've known how to make intersections safer, but it's taken the state making us do it before we started doing it. This is Baker and Mendoza. My brother was hit by a car here last week, crossing, he was walking along Baker. He had to cross Mendoza. Somebody turning left when this yield left turn hit him, knocked him to the ground. He's okay, thank God. But this is a typical Costa Mesa intersection. Right turns on red are allowed, yield left turns are allowed. Traffic is 40 miles an hour plus. And you might not think about it until you see maybe a child or someone with special needs. My brother has special needs. Or somebody with a walker, for example, or in a wheelchair, trying to navigate this environment. And you think intuitively, you realize, oh, this is a grim place. This is an intense environment that we've created. It's an inhumane environment. And 1/3 of people don't drive. They're either too young, too old, they have disabilities, they're too poor, they can't afford car ownership. Take everything out of the equation. Just think about them. We owe them these sort of easy safety improvements. It's not fair to say you can get hit from 3 different directions just when you're trying to cross the street. So I appreciate the time. I encourage you to take those safety measures in certain places.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Frank Spitzer, Costa Mesa resident. This is, my concerns are not directed toward the city inspectors or the police department, but the IT department or the technical department that helps them get things straightened out is what my concerns are. I do a lot of work in the city. I live in the city, and with city permits, there's a lot of issues that we've run into. We try to be patient with the computer that's with the new system that's going. It's got its pluses and minuses. I'm sure you guys all know about that. But more than once, colleagues of mine and myself have been at a point where we couldn't get any further on the computer. And I am no Einstein on the computer, but we came down here to get some help. And we kind of got the look like we shouldn't even be asking for help. We should be able to figure it out. And many of those instances, it took the person at the desk more than an hour to figure it out. So I felt a little bit better about that. But it's getting to be time consuming. It's getting to be embarrassing where a lot of guys don't even want to come to the city and do any work anymore because it's such a nightmare trying to get anything through. So if you could just take a look at that, I know I'm not the only one that's complaining about it, but the IT department over there needs some assistance. The other half of this is with the, concerning the police department, is with the permits on the parking thing. Myself, many times, neighbors, I don't know if any of them are here, but more than once we've pulled the permit for parking for guests or for one that we've bought for our own and gotten ticketed. And more than once, I've had to take a photo of it, send it in, pay the ticket, go to arbitration, show them what I got, get refunded. It's a real pain. And it happens all the time. And it's funny, I was planning on coming here last week, and my wife just got another one and over the weekend. So I know they're out there driving around, checking it out, and doing the best they can, but how they can type in the license plate of the car or scan it or whatever they're doing and not see the permit and I can go online and take a picture of it and put it in there is beyond me why they can't. So there's another IT problem. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Joe Ferguson, resident of Costa Mesa, homeowner for the last 9 years on the west side. I came in tonight because I have a security concern, looking for some guidance and hopefully some assistance. My backyard butts up to Canyon Park. Chahal Canyon, if most of you are familiar with it, there's the playground set, then you would go down the hill, you'd get to the flatland, and then there's a fire road that comes up to the west side. And I'm up on that, not quite the cliff, but I'm up behind there, off that fire road. So this past Friday, the 31st, I believe, I'm in the backyard doing some work, and big fire bloom, big plume of smoke is coming from no more than 70 yards off my fence in the brush. So I, panic, I start yelling, hey, what's going on? And then I realized, well, that's not doing anything. So I ran in the house, grabbed a fire extinguisher, hopped the fence, went down into the park, found a homeless man there. The fire had subsided. The smoke was dwindling. I didn't need to use the fire extinguisher. I was able to stomp on most of it and get it out. Homeless man, I don't know if he understood what I was telling him or not. He didn't respond to me. I was trying to be as humane as I could with also telling him, no fuego, no fuego. So that's why I'm here tonight. And it was a great response from PD and the dispatcher who ended up sending the park ranger out. I met the park ranger down in the park. We struck the encampment and it was full blown. It was quite impressive. It was a living room, a kitchen with a big fire pit, frames and pictures and stuff hanging on the branches as you would think a home would have. Anyways, so we struck it. I helped him strike it, created a pile. He said, that's it. I don't need your help anymore. I said, thank you, and I left. I thought that would be all good since there, but then yesterday, all the dogs are constantly barking. I should have realized from the dogs over the past few weeks, maybe months, that something was going on, but it didn't catch on. Anyways, he's back. I went down before I came here to just take a look at that encampment, and things were starting to pile up again. The fire pit was back, so I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Any guidance or assistance you can give me on that would be great. Obviously, with everything that's going on in the Palisades in Altadena, I'm concerned with the fire coming up to all those homes on the cliff and on the backside. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Sir, thank you for coming and talking to us about that. Yes, Mark?
I have a PowerPoint, Mr. Mayor.
Just wait till it gets up and then we'll start your time. Take your time, whoever's bringing it up. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to talk about AB 413, the same item that Mr. Toller spoke about three commenters ago. For a reminder on what AB 413 is, it's the daylighting law that says you can't park at crosswalks. That's the law the state passed 2 years ago. It was implemented on January 1st of 2024 with a 1-year warning period and then a January 1st, 2025 citation period going forward. And I wanted to talk about some of the comments that were left on the Costa Mesa PD Instagram post that that talked about this law. You have people here saying that it's amazing and people are excited about it. People even suggesting specific intersections to have this at. You know, it's not some people saying that this was common sense being on the East Coast and 41 other states having this in their laws. But some other people really are kind of, I think, expressing some frustration and concern about the city's reaction, really not understanding why the city isn't ready and primed to paint all the curbs. You can see multiple people here expressing that sentiment. You know, someone at a school saying that this is great and that warning citations would have been nice before this law went into effect. This person here expressing that, like, if it's good for pedestrian safety, it's something they have to do, but you know, where's the help between the city and her as a resident on this particular law that needs to be enforced, like a warning ticket? You know, people expressing painting the curbs, etc. Here's a few more. So the point here is that I think the city has a responsibility to act on this law, and the Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets, in addition, I'm assuming your guys' city lobbyist up in Sacramento identified this law to you as a requirement that Sacramento was pushing down a year ago. I spoke to the public works director about this a year ago, that you have to do something to identify this to the public. And what I'm taking away is a couple things. One is, have we been giving warnings at all the past year? The chance that we have to communicate this law, the 1-year warning period that was written into the law, have we been giving any warnings to the residents at all? I would love to know how many warnings the CMPD has issued. Has Public Works, does it have a plan to implement this with red curbs, with bollards, with bike racks, with other things that we can do there? Is there a plan at all? How many curbs were treated last year in advance of implementation this year? And then lastly, the public is supportive of public safety and pedestrian safety. Anyone who claims otherwise, I think, is wrong. People want to feel safe in the community, but they want the city to communicate about public safety and about initiatives like this. So I ask the city to prioritize this as an issue, communicate more, and actually make daylighting treatments a CIP item in this year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, sir.
Members of the council, my name is Jose Toscano and I am a resident of Costa Mesa. I'm coming up to talk to you guys regarding a concern that happened yesterday on Victoria Street. There was a group of protesters that were protesting, exercising their constitutional rights, to assembly. And while I respect their demands, there was a lack of law enforcement, and some of these protests were going up until 12 in the morning, and late at night there was zero police law enforcement enforcing the Victoria Street, and there was a takeover of the street where there was people literally standing in the middle of the street with cars swerving, doing donut holes in the street, and that was incredibly unsafe for all pedestrians and cars passing by. So I hope that whenever there is another assembly, another protest here in our city, that we do better with our law enforcement in enforcing the law in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, phone number ending in 613, please.
613, you have the floor.
Yes, hi, good evening. I want to speak about so-called public safety with regards to West 19th Street and the negative impacts it has on my street. The city, when they added that bike lane that nobody uses, tons of residents on this side of town can't stand. You guys know that. All I had to do was pass out some flyers and you got blowback from it. But that bike lane that no one uses is creating cut-through traffic on my street. At the last meeting, Councilmember Reynolds talked about getting messages about people speeding on Victoria, and it was in her district, so she was going to do something about it. Hey, Reynolds, my street's in your district, and I talk about this basically every meeting. You're not putting traffic safety on my street. We get cut through traffic, people speeding down the street because no one wants to drive down 19th Street because it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. You guys ruined West 19th Street, and you refuse to acknowledge the impact that it's created to adjacent residents. To the two new council members, please don't let my concerns fall on deaf ears. The current majority doesn't pay attention to what I have to say because I'm critical of them, but they don't take care of the problems that they create. You know, there's a lot of issues with the city, and it's self-inflicted because of their leadership. We have, the permit parking the guy talked about a few minutes ago. I'm surprised that he gets enforcement on the weekends. I pay for a service that we don't get. They don't enforce on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. They don't come down my street. I'm paying for a service that I don't get. But anyways, back to 19th Street. I've asked multiple times to please put an officer on Town Street in the morning because they will just nail people speeding down a residential street so they don't have to go down 19th Street. The city council's created an issue on the street, and they're refusing to do anything about it. Public safety, pedestrians, like what that guy earlier was talking about. You guys created an issue on the street. Please put someone on the street to enforce speeding.
Next speaker.
Thank you.
Next speaker is R.
Thank you, council members and Mayor. I'm a frequent user and advocate for the Costa Mesa 311 app. And for the third time, I'd like to reiterate that I think it's of vital importance that the 311 app be made fully accessible in Espanol. I'd like to thank specifically Mayor Stevens for acknowledging and agreeing with me on this point at last month's meeting. It's my understanding that from a staff member that from a technical standpoint, adding a Spanish option to the app is not at all difficult. Therefore, I'd like to, hopefully, without me having to make another comment at the next council meeting, see any action from this new council to make this very simple adjustment that almost no cost would make the Costa Mesa 311 app more easily accessible to every one of our neighbors, especially now. I'd also like to reiterate this second question for the council for the second time. Do you think prohibiting gas-powered leaf blowers would be a good idea for Costa Mesa? The city of Irvine has recently done so, and if you agree it would be a good idea for Costa Mesa, I'd love to see some action toward, or at the very least, a discussion among the council about getting a similar effort to Irvine's in motion here in Costa Mesa. I know there would be questions about subsidizing the replacement of current leaf blowers with electric ones that might involve some outside the city funding, and helpfully, Irvine has already addressed this issue by partnering with the South Coast Air Quality Management District. That's all I have tonight. Thank you for your time and your continued service to our city.
Thank you.
No further speakers, Mr. Mayor.
All right, close public comment. So now's the time for council member committee reports, comments and suggestions. And first up is Council Member Mar from District 3.
Yeah, thank you for the great public comments tonight. Agree that we should be doing a little bit more as it relates to daylighting and making that law much more clear for folks. I've received a couple of complaints from folks around the permit parking who have had to sort of go back and ask for arbitration on tickets that shouldn't necessarily have been given. So I'm not sure if that's a technical thing. I'm looking at you, Raja. I'm not even sure you're the right person I should be looking at right now. But I'd like some resolution on it. If there's a glitch, let's just be honest. If there's a glitch, and let's understand what it takes to fix it. There's one other thing I was going to comment on, but hopefully one of the other council members will respond to one of the public comments that was really good that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Thank you.
All right, next up from District 5, Councilmember Arliss Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. Just quickly on the permit parking program, I was trying to remember sort of when that launched and when the phasing was. I think it's a good time for just a general update on how the program's going and if we've made it through all of the phases. So if we could get that on our agenda, maybe in the March timeframe, that would be great. Thank you for the commenter requesting a Spanish option for 311. Fully support that. We've also talked about amplifying use of that app, and I'd love to see additional physical signage placed at our bus stops and our public trash cans. I think that's a really good way to get the word out in places like where it's needed so people can use the app to report when a cleaning is needed or when a trash can needs to be cleaned up. On the daylighting issue, I was both happy to see us getting information out of there, but I also shared the immediate concern of, it seems unfair to immediately ticket people when there's not a lot of awareness about the law. I did have a conversation with the city manager on that, and I'd love to get an update. It doesn't need to be today, but an update on both our plan for really making sure that there's broad awareness of what the law is, and also what our plan will be for marking, identifying and prioritizing areas to do the marking. I know one of the concerns when that law was passed, and I certainly was in support of it, but one of the concerns was that it could be used to just ticket people without actually improving safety because people aren't aware that they're not allowed to park in those areas. So I think physical markings, whether it's red curbs, delineators, bollards, whatever, potted trees, something to make it clear where people should not park, because what we really want to do is solve the safety issue, needs to be part of our plan going forward. So I'll be looking for updates on that. I really appreciate the boost in communication for our Let's Go Costa Mesa shuttle program. That continues to get really positive response. I get I see on social media, but also get some periodic texts saying, I just took my first shuttle ride and it was fantastic. So let's keep sharing information about that. From a parking program. Yeah, Chief Stefano, I'll be asking you, I think it's my once a year ask, and I always have to do it, but I really would like to get an update on just our regular preventative practices for Canyon Park and Fairview Park in terms of the fire concerns. Talbot Park as well, even though I know that's not technically our jurisdiction. There's always comments about that, and of course, elevated concerns now, so I'll be following up with you on that. And lastly, some of us were over at the Costa Mesa Sanitary District a couple weeks ago, and I noticed in their boardroom they had their organizational values posted prominently in their boardroom, which I really appreciated. I think it was a nice reminder during the meeting what the agreed upon values were. I think it's been, 3-4 years since we established our city values for the first time, and I think it would be really nice for us to post those prominently in our public space as well. So I'll put that request in, and hopefully we can get those up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is from District 6, Councilmember Jeff Pettis.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Just a couple things. First thing I want to mention is that over the past weekend, myself and wife and little one, Charlotte, went over to check out the Harbor Soaring Society, spent at least an hour. Thank you, Matt Garcia, for taking the time to really give me an understanding of how they do things over there. And I was kind of taken aback, but there must have been 3 sets of grandparents with their grandkids and their fathers all there enjoying the experience. I also finally know what a vernal pool looks like. I'll be honest, I was just killing me. Shout out Andrea Mar. They were able to show me, not all of them because I had a limited amount of time, but I was there for a long period of time. I was able to see the activities, and also I understand and agree with the importance of coexisting with the environment and the protected things that are going on at Fairview Park. But I really got a good understanding of what the two sides are talking about, and I was left with the impression that I really do think it's possible for us to coexist the enjoyment of the the Harbor Soaring Society and also be very respectful of what's happening with the environment over at Fairview Park. Next stop is the trains. I did see a train passing by on my way out, but I'm going to be visiting them next because I really want to experience it and get a quality understanding of it. So thank you for that. Second issue is I want to just take a second to Raja and staff and everybody and express my appreciation for the efforts on the east side when it comes to public safety, and appreciate Mr. Toller talking about the importance of safety. I noticed that there's a new four-way stop sign on 18th and Westminster, which is it's a gigantic thing that is going to do a lot for the safety of the neighborhood, for the bikers and all the folks, dog walkers, pedestrians, car people. It's important, and it falls kind of under one of my main pillars of just thinking about, systemic investment in infrastructure done efficiently and effectively. So I appreciate it. I know how hard our staff works. The one caveat being, I was forwarded an email from somebody that had made the comment. It was one of my constituents that this was actually brought up 10 years ago. So I'm not gonna get into it too much. I'd like to know more about why it took 10 years. I know there's an answer to that, and I'm sure there's some. There's plenty of information that I need to glean, but I think that it's important. We need to be more, I'm sure the public can agree with me, more speedy on especially issues when it comes to safety. Last thing is, I know this has come up, and over the years I've been watching, and the issue of knowing what's going to be on the agenda early, and I want to throw the caveat. I know how much work goes into putting these binders together, and they delivered. I mean, I'm very respectful of all the hard work, and I know it takes a lot. But I kind of think about it in the context of my own profession right now, and we have we do a lot of work, and I won't get into the weeds with big issues. Say it's we want to reduce veteran suicide, or we want to increase access to care. We want to encourage people to go to the VA instead of the community for their care. These are big, giant issues that are going to be on the calendar in the coming year, and we do a lot of work through the Lean Six Sigma process, and they come up with a process called a value stream analysis. I won't get into the weeds too much on it, but what it is they put together these big initiatives we know we're going to be addressing at some point throughout the year, and we map them out, and we know they're coming. There's going to be a lot of adjustment and movement, things added, taken away, but it kind of gives us an over-the-horizon look at the state of the VA at the federal and then at the local level, and gets us, the leadership there, thinking about it ahead of time. And I would like to, I know that there must be some sort of process like that here, and I know that things change, but I need, in terms of the way my brain works and how I kind of like to daydream and think about things and then get down into the nitty-gritty, having a future look at what might be coming would be something I'd like to see, and that would be my request. And that is it for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. From District 1, Councilmember Mike Bewley.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens, members of the public. Yeah, I tell you, 2 weeks since the last meeting, well, we had an interim meeting last Tuesday, but 2 weeks since the last one, and I tell you, the news cycle, topics move on pretty quickly. It seemed like the Palisades and our fire preparedness, whatever, were the primary focus at that time, and we've moved on. We're moving on to all kinds of things going on in the world. But I did want to kind of circle back and comment similar to Councilmember Reynolds. I was at the sanitary district liaison meeting where they all got together, and the topic of the day there was primarily, on top of all the other projects going on and what each district is up to, what was on the top of everybody's mind: how prepared are we as a city for an event, if you will? And I think geographically we're not quite positioned to be Pacific Palisades, but the top issue at the time was the water pressure and the fire hydrants, and are we prepared? Do we have the water supply? And I'd like to just report back to the public what I heard and what I saw is that as a city, our multi-districts and our fire department are all fully integrated, and we do seem extremely prepared. We've got over 3,800 fire hydrants throughout the city. Our water district tests each and every one of those every year. They find 1 to 200 that need to be repaired or replaced. Our geography out here, we're relatively lower and not as mountainous as Palisades, so we don't quite have the same water pressure issues. We have adequate pump stations, and I think I recall that we have 90% of our pump stations have backups. And our water supply, we're fortunate. Costa Mesa has adequate water supply from our own wells. We additionally are tied in to 2 other outside sources with an emergency water supply. And it just seems that, I know it's probably always cautious for people to say we're fully prepared, and then the worst happens, and I guess then you find out. But I was impressed with all our agencies, and there was just an excellent presentation by Chief Stefano, and we got to really drill down on that. And at least I walked away, and I wanted to report back that it doesn't appear we're anywhere as close to the issues that Palisades had to face. But I also want to say that our hearts continue to go out to that community, and thanks again to our fire department. And yeah, that's about it. And thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Next up from District 2, Councilmember Lauren Gameros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to be pretty brief tonight. What I'd like to do is reach out to the community as a local leader and a community representative and say, in light of everything that's going on in our community and nationwide for that matter, that if anyone in this community needs me for anything, I'm here for you as a leader. You can always get a hold of me through our Constituent Services Department. If that doesn't work, you can call me directly. My number is 949-524-0085, and I'm here for you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next up is our Mayor Pro Tem from District 4, Manuel Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and for those who celebrate, Happy Lunar New Year. I have one quick update, 4 requests for staff, and then 1 acknowledgement. The update was I had the pleasure of joining Rail Elementary School 2 weeks ago for their Avid Night. Every year, Rail Elementary School does an Avid Night where they promote going to college and reading to all their students, raise a proud Avid school, and it's always a pleasure to visit my old grade school and see the bright young faces thinking of the future. It's never too early to think of the future, and I'm so proud of Ray for having this event every year and making a great part of the community. Thank you to Ray. For staff, 4 things. 1, ask again for the seniors at the tower if we can please look into installing dedicated, having no yield left turn, but actual left turns on 19th and Pomona. A lot of seniors mentioned that it's scary for them to walk the crosswalk because a lot of cars don't wait until they cross the sidewalk to turn left. And I think yields are a big part of that reason. So if we look into that issue for the seniors, that'll be awesome. A few of the youth at Soy have mentioned to me that it's really dark at night on Wilson Street, and they can't cross Wilson Street unless they're at Pomona and Wilson or Harbor and Wilson. So I would love if we can study and see if we can install a hawk signal somewhere between Placentia and Harbor on Wilson Street for them to have a safe crossing walk. And I also want to just comment on 2 comments made by members of the public. 1, I agree with Councilmember Mar. It is not appropriate for residents who have a permit to be paying, a fee for having a permit. However, we can remedy that so that folks don't have to go to arbitration. We should. That's not fair for our residents, and I think that we should fix that immediately. And the second thing is, I also want to echo comments by the mayor and our prior speaker from the public that I do want to see our Costa Mesa app 311 be in Spanish. I'm happy that we have an option now to do a guest request. It's a good next step, but Spanish is the next final step, I think, to make it a really wonderful program. And then finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the youth of our community. Yesterday, over 70% of our students, it seems like, did not attend their schools in honor of a day without an immigrant. So I just want to acknowledge the young people who use their voice in civic protest and say I appreciate you and you were seen. So that's it today. Thank you, Mayor.
Your light didn't turn on. I could hear you, but your light, do that.
Did anyone hear what I said or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, I could hear you.
Super weird.
It's not on. That's weird. Okay, anyway, so following up on what Councilmember Bewley said, yeah, I was at the meeting of the districts as well. It was an excellent presentation by Chief Stefano and also Paul Schoenberger from Mesa Water. Thank you to Mesa Water for really decades of commitment to infrastructure to create the place where we're at right now in terms of water availability and accessibility in terms of the many hydrants and Councilmember Bewley did a really nice job, I thought, bringing out some of those facts. The chief, and I think Mesa Water is going to be included in this, I hope they are, is going to be having some, fire chief, that is, Stefano is going to be having some town halls. We're in the process of scheduling those. And so be on the lookout for that. Then stuff that I've done, I went to Mark Murphy's memorial on Saturday. That was quite a thing. He was quite a guy. Mr. Orange, I mentioned him last time. We adjourned the meeting for him, but that was nice to pay my respects to him. I went to the UVSA celebration at Garden Grove Park for Lunar New Year. It used to be in Costa Mesa. They moved it back to Garden Grove Park, and it was a really fun event, and there were a lot of people there enjoying it, very packed and densely populated, and everybody was having a good time. I really like the idea that Councilmember Reynolds said about putting our values and displaying them in the chambers and also maybe in the lobby. I think that that's excellent, and I noticed the same thing, that they have that there, and I think that's impressive. Their first value is balance. I thought that was fascinating, balance amongst their employees. 311 app, I'll say it again, I think that's a great idea to have that in Spanish, and it fits in with, again, our core values. Let's see, what else do I have? Costa Mesa. Trying to read my own writing, I'm sorry. I think, yeah, I think the points that were made were really valid about the implementation of the daylighting ordinance. I think it's 418, I can't remember the number, but it seems kind of abrupt to start doing tickets before there's a warning and education period. So we have an opportunity to do that, and that would be something that I would support. Of course, I guess it's the police department's prerogative, but it's just something I would support. Canyon Park enforcement, encampment enforcement, I thought the gentleman who spoke on that was pretty powerful. That's a concern, both in Canyon Park and also in Fairview Park. And everywhere we should have strict, that was the plan. I mean, if people want to go back to, we have the grants pass decision and all that stuff, but if people really want to go back and look at the decision-making process of the 2019 council, when we had the iconic 7 green panels to put forth our shelter, which has been a great thing for our community, pretty much the next meeting, we voted, as we were allowed to do under the federal court order, for very strict enforcement on encampments. So we should definitely keep that up and focus on those parks especially. And the gentleman who came up and he said he was struggling with, he said he was struggling with the IT and getting on and Tessa and stuff like that. What I'd like to see is, for the benefit of the public, and our new council members, last April we did a meeting where the council got together and expressed certain goals. And one of the prevailing points, I think, pretty much consensus among the council, is we need to focus on, where there are bottlenecks in our processes, particularly as it relates to people that are applying for entitlements and permits and things like that. What's our commitment and culture of responsiveness, and any issues that we can address there. So what I'd like to do is, if we could, get a report on where are we at with that, what are we doing with that, what are we doing to address an issue that it's not just this gentleman, but it's a common theme that I hear from the public. So, you know, we have a new director, Carrie Ty. We're very blessed to have her, and she's looking into these issues, I'm sure. But it would be really good to get like an assessment and a plan for how we're going to address some of the issues that we hear, not only from that member of the public, but from others outside the context of the city council meeting. That's all I have. And so then we'll go to the city manager report. Ms. Farrell Harrison, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I don't really have many comments tonight except to say that we will definitely follow up on some of the issues that were raised either in public comment or by the council this evening. It's always our goal to be as responsive, as efficient as possible. We're constantly revamping, fixing processes, trying to cut out any red tape and bureaucracy. I know it's a commitment of mine. It's also a commitment of the team. Getting this feedback is always helpful. We also strongly believe in education before we implement new programs. And so regarding the daylighting issue, we absolutely have Public Works and PD trying to work together on education. I've already reached out to the chief on that and making that a priority before there's any really enforcement, ticketing, et cetera. It's important for everyone to be informed of the new rules. And then we'll work with our fire chief, of course, with our neighborhood improvement program on some of the issues that have been raised around encampments and fire risk to make sure that we're mitigating all of that. And so thank you for sharing your concerns this evening, and we'll be reporting back. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, you have the floor to give your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to report this evening.
All right, way to go. We're going to move on to the consent calendar items. And so all of these items are deemed to be routine, but they can be pulled by either a member of the public, the council, or staff. And then for all those items that are not pulled, we will hear them in one motion. Madam Clerk, do we have any items that have been pulled?
Yes, Councilmember Pettis has requested items 6 and 7, and Councilmember Bewley has requested item 8.
Okay, can I get a motion on the
Okay,
back?
wait,
Sorry.
1 second, let me just remove these.
Yeah. Okay, just note, we get a motion on the balance.
Okay.
Let's get a motion on the balance. Looks like Councilmember Reynolds made the motion, and seconded by Councilmember Bewley. So then what we'll do is we'll note a recusal on number 3 from me due to a campaign contribution by Ware Disposal, who's listed in the warrants, and also Councilmember Gameros, because his wife works for Priceless Pets, who are listed in the warrants. We still need a second. Oh, second by Bewley. We had that up there. It's gone, but it's on the record, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's call for the question.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so now we'll go with the first item that was pulled by, we'll go in with Councilmember Pettis's items that he pulled. The first is consent calendar item number 6. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Yes, this is acceptance of the LED lighting installation at City Parks and Athletic Facilities Project. Jack Hammett Sports Complex, T. Winkle Athletic Complex, Costa Mesa Tennis Center, and Bark Park. City Project number 23-09.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Pettis, you have the floor with respect to this item that you pulled.
Thank you, Mayor. Just keep this brief. You know, looking at the LED lights, you know, I can remember, I think I'm fine. I think we're fully converted into our house, unbeknownst to my wishes that we are on LED. It's a better form, more efficient, especially on a large scale for sporting events and all that. I had a question for staff on this. So what is I know that LEDs it's cheaper and more efficient and more cost. It's a better use of taxpayer funds for LEDs, and I'm wondering if there's an anticipated savings in the term of energy and maintenance costs over, say, the 5-year period for going to LED. Whoever could answer that for me would be awesome.
I'll start off, Councilmember Pettis. So Jack Hammett and T. Winkle together, the anticipated savings is about $1 million over 25 years. So if you take that for 5 years, it's $200,000 over 5 years. And with respect to maintenance, all the parts and labor are covered for 25 years by Musco Lighting. So that's a huge savings in that respect for maintenance purposes. For Tennis Center and Bark Park, that lighting was not controlled by a central system, so we don't have what was usage before, but we do anticipate that to be roughly in the same magnitude of 50 to 75% compared to the old system. So it should have good savings too.
Sounds good, Roger. Thank you so much for the information.
Okay, Councilmember Gamaros?
Yeah, I have just a quick question, if I may, on this as well. I noticed that the tennis center is included. I think it was the last meeting that we had. There was a member of the community that said she felt unsafe walking to her car. I just wondered if there's any lighting that's going to be included with this in the future that would satiate that.
Yes. Yeah, Councilor Gamaros, we're actually working on now two fronts. We talked to Edison about adding, they have their own lighting on Junipero. We are asking them to add an arm that goes over the parking lot on the tennis center side. So that's one. And we're also looking into adding, there are new solar lighting systems that are being installed. So we might add 3 of them on the tennis center side also, just to see how that works.
Okay, thanks, Roger.
Thank you to both of you. Excellent questions. And I had the same question, Councilmember Gamaros, so thank you for asking that. Let's open it up to the public. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this item? Okay, I don't see anybody coming from the chambers. Anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Close public comment. Okay, then we can do a motion. I made a motion to approve the item. Councilmember Mar has seconded it. If there's no comments, let's call for the question.
Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem, yeah, thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, good job. Okay, then let's do the, read the title, please, Madam Clerk, for consent calendar item number 7.
Award the purchase of batting cages for the T. Winkle Athletic Complex.
All right. Councilmember Pettis, you pulled this item. You have the floor to discuss it.
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of a theme here. It comes to fiscal responsibility and just actually information from myself and the public. Batting cage is an awesome idea. I think it's great. I grew up in batting. I think I had to drive to Fountain Valley when I was a kid to go to a batting cage. So excited about that. I looked through pretty carefully the staff report on it. Great information. Other than I wasn't able to determine if there was an installation cost or there was going to be. I don't think I saw the amount. And is there a timeline? And just to throw in my second question, maybe you could, I don't know if Roger or Lorianne's going to be answering this, but so there's installation costs on the batting cages, and does this athletic complex, the T. Winkle complex and others, generate revenue? And if so, is the addition of batting cages, and is it going to increase this revenue? So that's the 2 questions I have, if you can remember all that.
Yeah, Councilor Pettis, I'll have our maintenance manager, Robert Ryan, answer the questions.
Good evening, Councilmember Pettis. Thank you for the question. The answer to your first question is the anticipated installation costs are going to be about $65,000. The second question, could you repeat the second question you had?
Sure. I wasn't sure if this athletic complex generates revenue, and if it does, will the batting cages benefit the revenue gathering process?
Thank you. So the majority of the user groups that fall are Group 1, which is a no-fee classification. So as minimal revenue comes from any other user groups, Group 3, that gets charged fees. So in fiscal year 23-24, revenue is just a little over $10,000 total. So we don't anticipate necessarily any additional revenues from the batting cages, just other benefits upgrading the facility overall and meeting the needs of our user groups.
Hey, thanks so much. You answered my questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bewley?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was kind of glad to see that this got pulled from the consent calendar. Obviously, heartily support it and give me an opportunity to comment. I've been kind of blessed and fortunate. I think it's one of the great things of living here in Costa Mesa. We always talk about having a residential, family-oriented type of community, and my family has particularly benefited from Costa Mesa Little League, and I had a son who came all the way up through it, and we actually play really good baseball in this city, and our Little League and our Pony League, and they've made quite a few runs, and our facilities should actually support and reflect that a little bit, and it has been lacking that we haven't. It's funny, the parents sit around, and when you talk about community, you're bringing families together from all over the city. And they all get there and mix, and it's an event, and you count the days for opening day, and it's just, I think this is a good use of funds for the city. And anyways, I just wanted to share that, so thanks.
Yep, opening day for Little League, by the way, is March 1st. I hope we all come out. That would be so awesome if all the city council members, staff members came out and supported that. This is more where the Pony folks play. I completely support this. I'm glad every penny we spend I support. I just have a quick question regarding the funding. Is this, are we paying for the whole thing, or is there contributions being made by some of, like Pony and Costa Mesa United and stuff like that?
Mayor Stevens, we are paying for this, but I think it's through the grant we received through Senator Min.
Oh, good.
It's
All
covering
right.
a lot of it, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad we're paying for it. If we're paying for the whole thing, that's fine. I was just curious. Anyway, completely support. Thanks for pulling it, Councilmember Pettis, because I was going to make some comments on it anyway. All right. Let's open to the public. Nobody in the chambers? Anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Close public comment. Okay, let's call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds and Mayor Stevens.
Oh, thought I pushed it.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, now we're up to consent calendar item number 8. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Professional Services Agreement for On-Call Staff Support for General Planning Services.
Okay, this was pulled by Councilmember Bewley. Councilmember Bewley, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Stevens. Yeah, I appreciate that staff can't possibly accomplish all of the work and all of the tasks that we put out there, and I understand the necessity and importance of these outside contractors. The reason I pulled it, I had some inquiry from the public, and just quite frankly, I didn't have answers or have knowledge on the question, but it's my understanding, and maybe somebody can educate me on some of the backstory, that PlaceWorks in the past, I guess they had a little issue with the council. They weren't kind of happy with their performance on Fairview Development Park. And I'm curious, one, is that an accurate statement? Did I get accurate information? And two, was that considered when we were thinking of re-upping their contract for another 3 years?
Good evening, Councilmember Bewley and Mayor and members of the City Council. I can try to address that. I understand that there was a previous City Council item for on-call consultants where PlaceWorks was one of the items, and there were several public commenters that commented on the ongoing community outreach and engagement activities at that time. That was about a year ago. I wasn't personally here at that time. However, I did review very carefully the detailed staff notes on the progress and the activities on the Fairview Developmental Center specific plan. And based on the activities that were scheduled at the time and the progress that has been realized between that time and now, I can say that at least the PlaceWorks management and performance on the Fairview Developmental Center specific plan has been satisfactory to city standards. I understand that you know, there's been a lot of work done since then, and according to our staff, the progress reports have reflected what has been expected of PlaceWorks performance. So I can at least share that. And then the second part of your question is relating to the inclusion of PlaceWorks on the on-call staffing support. That would be in a different capacity compared to their current contract with the city. This is one of, as you can see on the agenda item, it's one of 8 items. They would simply be one of the firms that is available, that would be available if approved on the on-call staffing support list. The reason there are 8 firms on there is that the request for proposals included a set list of criteria and qualifications that every firm had to demonstrate as part of the evaluation process. And based on that criteria and based on the qualifications of each proposer, PlaceWorks did qualify under the request for proposal. The on-call scope of work is different from a large-scale planning effort. It is on-call in a sense of its extension of staff, and it's also management of development projects when our staffing capacity is challenged to maintain timelines. So it's a different capacity. And lastly, I want to share that PlaceWorks is a firm of about 150 people, and so they have a broad spectrum of staff expertise to choose from, and that provides the city with additional flexibility and resources if we need a particular expertise that they offer. And so I hope that addresses your question. Thank you for the opportunity.
It does, and just a follow-up, because I think I just learned something. So each of these 8 service providers, they're not necessarily unique in their discipline. There's a lot of overlap, and is it my understanding staff can, it's just a list that you can choose from depending on the assistance that's needed?
Yes, Council Member, that is correct. And to add to that, when there is a specific task that staff needs to seek expertise on, staff would reach out to one or more, at least multiple firms, to ask for their available personnel as well as a cost proposal to ensure that the city is securing the best personnel for that task.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's open it up to the public. Nobody? Okay.
No, Mr.
Anybody on Zoom? Nobody
No.
on Zoom? Close public comment. Call for the question.
We need a motion.
Oh, motion, sorry, motion. I forgot about that small detail. Motion by Chavez, seconded by Camaros. Yeah. You guys ready?
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. So a little update on consent calendar number 7. I just got a text from Jack Morales, who is the president of Pony, and he said, pass along his gratitude to the council and that he's very emotional, and it's very, very, very moving that we are providing those batting cages. So thank you also to staff for all your work on that. I really he appreciates it, and so does the community. Thanks. Okay, so we have one new business item. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Award of the Greenville Banning Channel Hydrodynamic Separator Installation Project, City Project Number 25-02. Presentation by Mr. Seth Rahman, Public Works Director.
Mr. Seth Rahman, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I'll have our city engineer Sung Yang make a presentation, and then we'll be here to answer questions.
All right, Mr. Yang, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Seth Rahman. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and honorable members of the City Council. My name is Sung Yang, and I'm your city engineer. So good evening. So the item before you today is the award of the Greenville Banning Channel Hydrodynamic Separator Installation Project. I know that's a mouthful, but we'll just go through the presentation and we'll go, demonstrate the particulars of this project. So a little bit of background. This project is essentially funded by the OCTA's ECP Tier 1 grant program, and OCTA is the Orange County Transportation Authority, and the Board of Directors approved the funding to measure M2 Project X Environment Cleanup Program, which is the ECP program. So this is a direct funding from that program. So this Tier 1 ECP program, it's the purpose is to mitigate the more visible forms of pollutants that causes litter and debris. You find that, and that's being collected on roadways, which eventually goes into our city's catch basins, and then eventually goes into our rivers and streams, which we want to avoid in doing. So as an effort to mitigate these issues of pollutants going into our natural waters, the city applied for and was awarded a TCP-1 ECP, Tier 1 ECP grant back in 2023 in the amount of $500,000 for this particular project, which is the Greenville Banning Channel HTS installation project. So a little background overview, so you see some little photos here of how this device works. The hydrodynamic separator, just in terms of abbreviated form, is called an HDS. It's a trash capture system for stormwater quality. Uses a cyclonic separation to separate debris by inflowing stormwater. So it uses natural forces, uses gravitational flow, using a vortex system. It goes around in a circle. Essentially, it's like a filter which just separates and settles where the pollutants such as cans, bottles, and other debris falls, and the water that's left over, which is the stormwater, is ejected out into another opening in terms of a water that was now free of such pollutants. It's a device that's specifically designed to be connected to storm drains. It's a flow-through structure, and sediment and debris, as I just mentioned before, is separated through gravitational settlement. So I'd like to briefly show you a video so you can kind of visually see how it works. So we have one here, and here we go. So as you see, as the water flows through, all the debris settles down as things settle through a vortex system, and there you go. So that's a very, very brief video, but you get the point. So, all right, so essentially that, whoops, I don't know what that's for. Okay, sorry about that. So back to our presentation. So when it rains, and if we don't have any kind of system to mitigate these pollutants, this is what you have here. So I took these photos about a week or a week and a half ago after it just rained, and this is near the Greenville Banning Channel, and you can see a lot of the pollutants that you see there that's being collected. You see this yellow at the top here? That's essentially a barrier that the county has put in to prevent it to go through the ocean. But these are the kind of things we want to avoid. So in the next slide here, this is how it should be. And this was taken maybe during the summer about a year or two ago. It should be clean, and this is the kind of situation that we want to promote by having this hydrodynamic separator installed in our city storm drain system. So briefly, this is the site location. It will be installed at the western boundary of the Costa Mesa Country Club. This newly installed HES unit will be connected to the existing storm drain. And as mentioned before, it's a device that will filter debris and sediment before outflowing into the Greenville Banning Channel. So here's the proposed design, just schematically. Won't get into the engineering details of it, but essentially you can see the device being connected to the storm drain line here, which will act, and this is the circular device which acts as the vortex that you saw in the video, in which the settlement action will occur in terms of separating the debris flows before going into the storm drain. So here's a project overview. We had a bid opening, a public bid opening, back on November 12th of last year. The apparent lowest bidder was Zusser Company, and they're headquartered in Los Angeles. Their bid amount was $811,750. And in terms of our expecting the bid, we found out that they've done similar projects, such as this hydrodynamic separator installation project, such as the Barnes Park Stormwater Capture Project in the city of Baldwin Park. They also did the West Hollywood Western Basin Diversion Project for LA County Public Works, and also the John Anson Ford Park Infiltration System Project for the city of Bell Gardens. So a little background on the funding. The contract amount is $811,750. We're requesting a contingency amount of 10% for $81,175. And as mentioned briefly before, we're getting the funding from the OCTA Tier 1 ECP grant for Measure 2 in the amount of $500,000 and a match of $125,000 from our city's drainage fund, which is Fund 209. and additional funding from the West Side Storm Drain Improvements Project in an approximate amount of $271,000. So here are our recommendations. Make a finding of CEQA, categorical exemption, award of Public Works Agreement, PWA, to the Zusser Company in the amount of $811,750, including the 10% contingency. Authorize the city manager and city clerk to execute the PWA, and also with future amendments and agreements within council limits. And lastly, authorize $270,280 from the West Side Storm Drain Improvements Project to supplement the remaining costs of this project. So that comes to the end of our presentation, and staff is more than happy to entertain any questions from the City Council. Thank you.
Excellent presentation. Let's see, who did I? Let's go. Well, when we go down here, let's go with Councilmember Reynolds. Or sorry, we'll just go down the line. Want to go Councilmember Pettis, Councilmember Reynolds, and.
Well, I'm used to deferring to being the new guy versus my veteran here, but thank you, Arliss. Okay, so sorry about this again. You guys answered one of my questions, but the first one is estimated installation cost and timeline, because everything costs a lot to install, and I'd like to know about that. I have also uppity constituents, and you guys already did it, and I appreciate the drawing and the site location. That's important to myself and my constituency, so thank you for doing that. It wasn't in the original staff report, but I understand that's so when things aren't in the staff report, I start getting calls. So I'm just, thank you for that. Appreciate the drawing. So yes, on the estimated installation and timeline costs, or cost and timeline, please, if you know.
Yes, Councilmember Pettis, yes, thank you for the question. So the cost, as mentioned in the presentation, is $811,750. I'm not counting the contingency, but the timeline is about 4 to 5 months. So after this city council awards, then staff can have the contractor start the project sometime in April, with the completion around during the summer.
So does that 811 include installation?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything out the door.
Great, thanks.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. Can you explain why this is our responsibility? You showed the images of the Greenville Banning Channel and the flood control channels. Isn't that OCTA responsibility to treat water in those areas?
Councilmember Reynolds, it's actually a collective responsibility. We as a city, amongst all the cities in our area, are MS4 permittees. So as an MS4 permittee, we have the responsibility to protect the Clean Water Act. And in so doing, this is one of the measures that we implement in order to ensure the quality of our natural waters are not polluted. So every city, it's a collective effort, as I mentioned before. We can't do it alone. And the other cities have to contribute as well in terms of mitigating their clean waters. And we do that too. In terms of, in the past, we also done connector pipe screen installations to eliminate debris and other trash that goes into our waters. And the county is also an MS4 permittee, just like us. The county does that, but also we do as well.
Yeah, and I'm fully aware. I know you guys probably know the number off the top of your heads in terms of number of storm drains off of our roads, right? Of course, we're responsible for all of the regulations, about what gets into those storm drains. I was just struck by realizing that this is treating water that has made it into the flood control channels. So if it's a shared responsibility, can you just explain the breakdown of that? How do we split that responsibilities? And then do we, being a city that's pretty much at the end of, the downstream of all of that, do we end up with more burden in terms of the cost share?
So, Councilman Reynolds, let me answer that question, and then maybe Sung can add to that. The water that this storm drain system is actually treating is coming from the storm drain that goes along Placentia. So it's basically all the industrial areas, all the water that's coming through that area is what we are actually treating with this project. So it's our water that we are fixing at the source before it enters into the channel. And that's why, OCTA actually, recognized the need for these kind of projects, and that's why they have this grant program to help cities in implementing projects like this. So, you can say that they're almost paying, about 60% of the cost of of this project
Well, half,
through the
right? I think
grant.
It looked like our share was 400.
Yeah, they're
out of
paying
eight.
500,000 and ours is about 320,000, so they're.
Well, our share was 271, 125. I don't
Yes,
wanna-
yes,
okay,
that's
okay.
right.
So,
Yeah.
so the reason we are leading this is because the runoff, you're saying the runoff is from Placentia.
It's from
Right,
Placentia.
instead of treating all of those different sort of catchment points, we're treating it when it collects in that flow
Exactly.
channel. But do we have then, maybe this is a little bit out of scope and we can follow up, but then do we have any responsibility to treat the water in the, like the Greenville Banning Channel?
No, once it goes into the Greenville Bank channel, it becomes a county channel at that point, so county takes a lot more responsibility at that point.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Councilmember Gameros, did you,
Yes, thank
Go ahead.
you. So, probably this is going to be directed towards you, Raja. What determines whether or not this project falls under the CWA versus a PLA, the Community Workforce Agreement versus the other?
So we have projects that are specifically identified in the CWA document, and this is not one of those projects. So we identified typically projects that are fairly large, more than $1 million types of projects, and those are the ones that made that list.
So this one did not meet the threshold?
No, this one is not in that list of projects.
Okay, so then there's not going to be a local hire mandate either, is that correct?
That's correct, Councilman Gameros. There is no specific requirements for local hire on the project.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Bewley?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions. The 270 that's being allocated from the West Side Storm Drain funds, by allocating those funds, is it going to impede or impact any potential projects that is intended to be funding?
So, Councilman Bewley, we don't have specific projects on our pipeline at this time. We are collecting projects, like funds in that particular project title for a future project. So it's not impacting any other project at this time.
Okay. And then I noticed they're the low bidder, and I'm just curious, as part of the bid process, and they look to be about 200,000 lower than the high bidder. Were there specific line items where this low bidder had the primary savings, or was it more, was there any particular line items that would concern you that maybe he's cut too close at that? If you could just comment on how comfortable you are with the Susser company.
Yeah, Councilman Bewley, we do look at the bid document carefully to make sure that there are no such issues. Overall, the bid document, the bid proposal seems reasonable, and the company has done similar projects, so they're experienced in this kind of work. So we feel good about this.
Okay. And I'm not trying to encourage you guys to spend more money. I just, sometimes you go with the lowest bidder. It's not always the best project, but thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent questions, council. Let's open it up to public comment. I don't see anybody coming from the chambers. Anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Quiet night, close public comment. We do need a motion. I got that right. Okay, Councilmember Gameros, you have the floor.
No comment. It's just.
Are you just going to move the recommendation?
Yeah, move
Okay.
the recommendation.
Second? Yeah. Okay, if there's no comments, let's just call for the question.
And Councilmember Bewley, please. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, now, it's 7:21, so, Madam Clerk, would you please check to make sure, I think this is a record in my time here on council. Can you just do some type of a search and see if we've ever, in my time since 2016, we've ever ended at 21 after 7. We're adjourned.
It's a good meeting.